Hello everyone and welcome to my March wrap-up. So in March I ended up reading 15 books, 5,400 pages, and my average rating was 3.5. So I would say that is a good month for me, and I actually read a lot of different genres than my normal romance and thrillers. So I read 2 sci-fi, 4 historical fiction, 1 YA, 3 romance, 4 thriller, and 1 contemporary fiction. And I did have to DNF 3 books, and I don't know whether I will be getting back to these books or I will officially just DNF it. We will see with time. I don't like to officially DNF books unless I just know I will never get back to it. But these are some books that I did not finish for now. So first I'm going to talk about those 3. First one was Pretty Little Wife, and you may recognize it from my spring TBR. I said I wanted to finish it by the end of March, and I got halfway through this book and nothing was really happening that wasn't in the synopsis. It was just really boring and couldn't get into it. I may finish it. I mean, I was halfway through it, so I have about 200 more pages to go, but for now, I am putting it aside. The next book was Anxious People, and I got about 100 pages into this. I believe it was chapter 28, and yeah, 28, and I just do not like the writing style that he has, like the details and how the story is coming together. I may try this one audio sometime, but for now, this is just not it right now. So, might come back to it or might not, but going to try the audio, I think, for that one. And then the last one is Girl A, and that is by Abigail Dean. And I don't think I will come back to this one, but I don't know. I'll decide in a couple months if I want to officially DNF it and get it off my shelves. So that is the 3 books that I have DNF'd for now. So I don't like officially saying that I'm done with a book. So we will see. I might just get back to it later. But let's talk about the books that I did finish. And my first book for the month of March that I did finish was The One by John Mars, and I gave that one 4 stars. And it was a sci-fi thriller, and it was very good. I was a little worried about it at first because it has about 5 different characters' point of views, but it all did come together pretty good, and it was very fast-paced, and at the end of every chapter, which are small chapters, but at the end of every chapter, I just wanted more and more, and I paired the audio with it while reading the book for a little bit so I could understand all of the characters and everything. And it's a very good book. If you don't know what it is about a dating app that has to do with genetics. So you find your one by turning in your genetics and they test it, and then you get your match by that. It was breaking up a lot of relationships and marriages, and yeah, it was a very good book, good thriller. Finally found a pretty good thriller that I would definitely recommend to a lot of people. So my second book I read was an historical fiction, and that was The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. And unfortunately, it did fall a little flat for me, but I still ended up giving it 4 stars because I did have a little bit of tears in my eyes at the end. And it was a good book. I would recommend it. It took place during the Great Depression in Texas during the Dust Bowl, and talked about Elsa was one of the main characters and the characters surrounding her and talked about her family eventually finally moving out of Texas. So that's when the book got really a lot better for me. At first she was like, no, we're not going to move. But yeah, the book did get much better for me after they decided to move out of Texas and not kind of just start over. So that is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. And the next book I read was The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. Unfortunately, I did not like this book. I gave it a 2-star. I don't want to spoil it too much. I would suggest not really even reading the synopsis before going in. But I will say it is a sci-fi thriller, and I did have an unpopular opinion. I read it for the Stacks of Strange book club, and the live show actually for that was last night. I tuned in for a little bit of it, and it sounded like I did have an unpopular opinion. There were definitely some 4 stars and better reviews for it. So if you are still interested in it, I would definitely say give it a try. I did not enjoy the audiobook, I will say that, but other people said that they did. So the next 4 books are books that I read for the Backlist-a-thon, and that is just books that you read that are published before 2021, basically. So books that you wanted to get to last year or the year before that you still have not gotten to. So for that, the 4 books that I read was The Starcrossed Sisters of Tuscany by Lori Nelson Spielman. And this was a past Book of the Month pick, but I did not get it from Book of the Month. I just didn't think I would like it. And, it didn't grab my attention at first when it came out, but then I kept seeing reviews for it and I tried it. And so, yeah, I gave it a 4-star and I actually really enjoyed it. It is a contemporary fiction, so doesn't really have much romance or anything in it, but does have a really good trope to it. Just a lot of family in it and a little bit of family drama. If you are a middle child, then you don't find love. And so the main character and her aunt and cousin go to Italy to break the spell of that. And it just goes on how that plays out. So it was a really fun story and definitely surprised me. The next book I read was a romance, and it is called A Sweet Mess by J.C. Lee. I gave that 3 stars. Not like the best thing ever, but definitely a really cute romance, so that's why it gets 3 stars. And it takes place in a pretty small town, and the baker gets a bad review, and the food critic that reviews her, can't take back that bad review, but the bad review was because one of the workers there gave him the wrong cake. So definitely, a shocker there. He wouldn't take back the review. So I don't know. And it has a surprise pregnancy in it. So just not really like something that I loved. And the main character, it did have some drama and, cute love story, but 3 stars was from me. Okay, so the next book I read during that readathon was The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This was the Book of the Month book of the year for last year, and I do see why. I gave it a 3.5, so not like my favorite, but I see why some other people would like it, but it is definitely worth a read. It has twin sisters, and they live in the town of Mallard, and they are both Black, and this town has all light Black people in it. They run away at the age of 16. One marries a dark Black man, the other one marries a white man and lives a white life, and it shows them kind of growing up from the age of 16 when they ran away a little bit, and then it shows, my favorite part was their children kind of finding out about them, all of this, and interacting. So yeah, after they move away, I don't know how long they live together, maybe like I don't know, like a year or two. I think they lived together for a couple of years, and then they just split up and they never talk again. So it was very interesting, very good book. I would definitely recommend. I'm glad I finally got to read this one. And then the last book that I read for the Backlist Readathon was Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. That is another historical fiction, takes place in the 70s, and I enjoyed it. It was a 3-star, not really too much I can say about it, but it has points of views from a dad and a mom, and I think it's their middle child goes missing. So you find out what happened to her by the end of that. And those were the books that I read for the Backlist Readathon. I had a really fun time doing that and cannot believe I got 4 books done in that week. Like, it was a very good week for me. So definitely prioritized reading that week. All right, and then another thriller that I read was The Girl from Widow Hills by Megan Miranda. I gave that one 3 stars, and that was a pretty good thriller. I listened to it on audio. I wanted to listen to it. I think it came out last year, or read it last year, but I just never got a chance to. I really like Megan Miranda, but she is definitely more of like a beginning thriller author. But some parts of it did kind of like shock and surprise me, and liked seeing how that story was told and played out. All right, and then next is my favorite book of March, and that was Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This is a YA book. You might know her adult romance that just came out, The X Talk. I liked that one, gave that one a 4 stars, read that one in February, and wanted to try out some of her YA things. So this takes place in the span of one day, on the last day of senior year, and it has Rowan and Neil, and they have been competing to be valedictorian and just like the best for years. And then they have to do this competition or like game the last day of their senior year, and it goes on until graduation, it goes on until graduation, I believe. And this book was just such a fun book. I just really loved it. And usually I don't like books that just take place in one day, but this just did such a great job of it. And it was hate to love. And when they figured out that they were liking each other, I love hate to love where they haven't liked each other for a long time, and it kind of like builds up the hate. But then once they fall in love, they're like, why did I even hate you? And like they talk things through, and I don't know, I just really love books like that. So yeah, Today, Tonight, and Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and that was a 5-star for me. Definitely my favorite book of March. And then the next one was The Lost Apothecary, and that was a very interesting book. I definitely think I liked the present timeline more, but definitely saw why the past was in there, and just seeing like how they connected together was really good. I gave that a 3.5 star, so pretty good book. Not like my typical thing that I would read, but I really stepped out of my comfort zone, and am trying to do that in 2021. So that is The Lost Apothecary, and that is by Sarah Penner. The cover is absolutely gorgeous, so I love that. So yeah. The next one was another disappointment. That was The Project by Courtney Summers. I gave that one a 2-star, and I don't know. I just didn't really love it. Not like it was more of like a family mystery, not really too much of a thriller for me. Nothing really too much hooked me, and not really too much I can say. It does have some like cult things in it, and it's definitely a dark YA book. So that was The Project by Courtney Summers, and we just have 4 more here. The Float Plan by Trish Dollar, I think it is. This was a very quick audiobook and pretty good. I gave it a 3-star. A lot of people are liking it more than I did. I can't really say why I didn't like it, but it just went by too quick. Does have some trigger warnings for suicide and loss of a loved one. So that is that. A great book to read in the spring or summer, and I do love the bright cover. And the next one is another Megan Miranda, and I actually had an arc for this, and that is Such a Quiet Place. And I believe I gave that one a 3 stars as well, or 3.5 stars. I haven't updated that in my bullet journal yet. But about that rating, it's about a small neighborhood, and this woman was accused of murdering her neighbors, and she somehow ended up getting out of jail. I guess something went wrong in court or something, and so she never got actually convicted of the crime. So then she went back to the neighborhood to live with her roommate, and some suspicious stuff went down. There's a twist in this book, and that was a good twist, but it happened too soon, I think. And then after the twist, I don't know, it just wasn't really that good after the twist. So that is Such a Quiet Place by Megan Miranda. I do think if you like her as an author, or if you are like a beginning thriller, like starting to get into thrillers, I still would recommend it. I mean, it's Megan Miranda. I've read pretty much everything by her, so I had to read this one and was very excited to get the arc of it. So then the next one is my last romance of the month, and that was Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. And this was not my favorite of the 3, but definitely still very good. 4 stars. I am so sad that the series is over. I will probably buy physical copies of all of them and reread them all physically because I love this series so much. This is about Eve. She's 26 and her parents cut her off and say, you need to keep a job for a year. So then she ends up going to this bed and breakfast and finding a job there and maybe love with the owner. So that is that, and I can't remember if I told you the rating. It was 4 stars. Might be 4.5 stars now that I just talked about it. Might bump it up to that. But yeah, very good. Love this series. Want to reread this series one day and own all of them. So the last book of the month was The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. If you don't know this book, it is trending over on TikTok and Instagram a little bit. I found it on Instagram, but I actually had the arc on NetGalley a long time ago. I got it, just didn't really think about it. Then I saw it trending around and decided I need to finish this book, and I loved it. It blew my mind. It was so good. I actually told my fiance, he doesn't read, so I told him all about the book as I was reading it. It was very fun. So yeah, that is The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. She is the #1 defense attorney in the US, and her husband, she finds out her husband was cheating on her, and his mistress was ended up being killed in their lake house, and she defends him for the murder of his mistress, which is just nuts to me. But yeah, it was just a very good book and I highly recommend it. And that was worth the hype for sure. So that is my 15 books that I read in the month of March. Thank you for listening and have a great day.